Big problem with the Trump v. U.S. presidential immunity decision. It's like you have these conservatives that look like they're trying to protect Trump, but when you give absolute immunity to the president, that's going to be to Biden, Kamala, Jill Stein, Cornel West, Claudia de la Cruz, Chase Oliver. Any person that becomes the president will have the same immunity. And so when you say that official business is immune, but unofficial business is not immune, as long as people can somehow make it official business. So I'm going to just jump right into it, right? So I have a whole bunch of quotes here. I got some of the dissent. You have 2024 Trump v. U.S. is a landmark decision of SCOTUS. The presidential immunity from criminal prosecution presumptively extends to all of a president's official acts. So what's their constitutional powers? Well, they got the power of the pardon. They got the power of the commander-in-chief. So the power of the military, the power of the pardon. They're the ones who execute the laws. So they got the power of, they're the top cop. So they got the power of the domestic military, the foreign military, the power of the pardon. They control the executive branch. So all the executive agencies, the FBI, the ATF, the CIA, the Department of Agriculture, the DOJ. The main holding for 2024 Trump v. U.S. is this, and I think it might be the Trump decision. It might be called the Trump decision or the presidential immunity decision. The holding is this. Under our constitutional structure of separated powers, the nature of presidential power entitles a former president to absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for actions within his conclusive and preclusive constitutional authority. Preclusive meaning like his power of the veto. The president has a power of the veto, so you could restrict other branches' authorities. And he's entitled to at least presumptive immunity for prosecution for all of his official acts. So his constitutional authority is absolute. His official acts gets presumptive immunity. But for unofficial acts, he was just taking a stroll one day and then just beat up an old man in a wheelchair and pushed the old man in a wheelchair down a flight of steps because he shook his fist at him and was like, "Ah, you son of a bitch." Some old man called him a son of a bitch, and so he pushed the old man down a flight of steps. That he does not have immunity for, unless somehow he could construe it to be official business. That had to do, and then he could pardon himself, right? He could pardon himself later on. If he has unlimited absolute immunity when it comes to pardon, when it comes to the military, when it comes to the executive power to enforce the laws, which is ironic. So the person who's enforcing the laws don't have to obey the law? No, we're supposed to be a nation of laws, not a nation of women. We're not supposed to be a nation of men. You don't have tyranny. You're not being ruled by this man or that man. We're a free country. And since we're a free country, the lex is rex. The rex is not lex. The king is law. No, the law is king. And power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. So that's the holding. Official, constitutional acts, 100% immunity. Presumptive immunity for all official acts. Unofficial acts. So let's just take the 2021, the January 6th. So if you say, well, what did he do with January 6th? Well, was he the president when he made that speech and he enticed that riot/insurrection? Or was he a candidate? If he was the president, well, he's immune. If he's a candidate, well, then he is not immune. So this case was decided July of this year, July 1st, 2021. The court ruled in a 6-3 decision that Trump had absolute immunity for acts he committed as president within his core constitutional purview. Now listen to these phrases and these words, right? Within his conclusive and preclusive constitutional authority, those within his core constitutional purview, both conclusive and preclusive, presumptive immunity for official acts within the outer perimeter of his official responsibility. So it wasn't part of his core constitutional powers, but it's within the outer perimeter of his core constitution, his core But official acts, unofficial acts, he gets no immunity for them. No, you're not allowed to push Grandpa down a flight of steps because he called you a son of a bitch. This is a blueprint for tyranny. It absolutely is. Let's just think about the power of the pardon. So now the president can pardon himself. He can pardon him, her, everybody. He can pardon everybody for all time. All right, I give you a lifetime of pardon. You get to commit all the crimes that you want. Here's a lifetime. Now, I want legalized marijuana. I want marijuana to be legalized. So if I become the president, then technically I can just pardon all marijuana offenses. So if I can pardon all marijuana offenses, that nullifies Congress. Well, Congress is Article 1, President is Article 2, which by the structure of our Constitution, that means the legislative branch, the Constitution, the congressional. Congress has more power than the president. And since Congress has more power than the president, that means I cannot nullify Congress. But they're saying I can. So anything that Congress tries to pass, I can just say, I'm going to pardon them for that. Nah, marijuana, fuck you. I'm going to pardon them for all marijuana offenses. So that nullifies the legislature's law. And then can you pardon somebody for all time? So for marijuana, I like that. I like that for marijuana. But let's say fascism. Well, if you have a uniform on and you put a badge on, it doesn't matter if you're private security. It doesn't matter if you're just a person playing security guard. As long as you got yourself a little hat and you got yourself a uniform and you put a little badge on, well, you're allowed to go attack anybody you want to. You can use all the wanton violence you want to. You can be the biggest fascist in the world. And as long as you have a pretense of some kind of reason for why you just attacked that poor slob over there, can you pardon fascism for all time? Can we put the reclusive power of pardon up to the highest bidder? Can we just go ahead and sell it? Can we take bribes? Okay, you want a pardon? Okay, you murdered a whole bunch of innocent people, so you got that school shooting, Colt Gray, right? Colt Gray just killed some innocent people. But if you give the president $1 million, does he get a pardon? Can we just go ahead and give a pardon to the highest bidder? Give him $1 million? That's a good way to make some money. Isn't that all anybody gives a damn about in this country? So make some money, get $1 million, and then tell that murderer he could just, hey, you, just don't let it happen again. So we can pardon fascism. Can we pardon fascism for all time too? Can we preemptively pardon fascism? We're just going to go ahead and give Susie, Joe, Blow the power to attack anybody they want to. So rake in the millions from the white-collar criminals with the pardon power. Can you pardon 34 felonies? Can you pardon state offenses? Can you pardon local offenses? What about bombing Gaza? What about killing people overseas? Could he shoot somebody in Fifth Avenue? Could he pardon himself for that? Could he commit crimes and then pardon himself right afterwards? Can he preemptively pardon himself? Well, I'm about to go rob this bank, but I'm going to go ahead and announce this pardon. Does he have to have a written pardon, or can he just say, hey, I pardon thee, and that's good enough? What about all the Epsteiners? All them motherfucking rich and powerful people that went to Epstein Island? Are we going to pardon all them too? And then when I think about all the terrible shit that presidents have done throughout the years, Waco, Dresden, Nagasaki, Hiroshima, Trail of Tears, slavery, genocide. They say that Truman can't take the steel plants. Teddy threatened to take the coal mines, but really, well, hell, with the power of the pardon, you can nationalize any and all industries. You can take the means of production. You can make this a communist nation. Take the land and the coal and the water and the housing. Give the housing to the homeless. You can do a whole bunch of great things too. It's absolute power. You could become a terrible person committing a bunch of crimes. You could take all the resources when you have absolute power. Watergate, the Teapot Dome scandal. So many official acts that were evil. Waco, Dresden, Nagasaki, here's Trail of Tears, slavery, genocide, Watergate, Teapot Dome scandal. They can be pardoned, forgiven, forgotten. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. The meaning of absolute is not qualified or diminished in any way. Total, 100% power. So that's the power of the pardon. And then what about the powers of Congress? So let's pretend that they have some sort of justification. He has absolute power when it comes to the power of the pardon. Well, Congress is Article 1. Well, what powers Congress has, the president does not have. Well, the president started the Libya war, the bombing of, Syria. That hasn't been officially declared. We haven't officially declared. Congress hasn't officially declared war since the World War II, since 1941. So that's 80 years. That's 80 years that the power that Congress is supposed to have, the president has taken over. And then there is that authorization to use force after 9/11. That was supposed to go after the 9/11 perpetrators, but that's kind of a declaration of, a war against the tactic of terrorism. It's a war on terrorism. And terrorism is a terrible tactic, but war is kind of terrorism times 10. So who determines what's war and what's terrorism? I'm going to read the powers of Congress because, strictly speaking, if the three branches holds up, the powers that Congress has are powers that the president doesn't have. And then if the president has complete absolute immunity for his constitutional powers, then that means Congress would have complete constitutional immunity for their powers as well. So it comes from Article 1, Section 8. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes. So Congress can collect all the taxes that they want, and duties and imposts and excises, to pay the debts, provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform. So as long as you say, hey, this tax is for every person, everybody owes the government 1 penny, and therefore, bam, $330 million they just raised. To borrow money on the credit of the United States. These are the powers of Congress. To regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with Indian tribes, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization, uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States, to coin money, regulate the value thereof, and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures, to provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States, to establish post offices and post roads, to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to the respective writings and discoveries, to constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court, to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations, to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and to make rules concerning captures on land and water, to raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to that use shall be for a longer term than 2 years, to provide and maintain a navy, to make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces, to provide for calling forth the militia, to execute the laws of the nation, to suppress insurrections and repel invasions, to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers of the militia and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress, to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 miles square as made by secession of particular states, and the acceptance of Congress become the seat of the government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state, in which the same shall be for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, and to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers, and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department of or officer thereof, to make all the laws which are necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers. So whereas the president can sign laws and he can enforce the current laws, he can't create new laws. So he would have to enforce the laws that are already on the books. Congress can change the laws. And then they can do any laws, make any laws that they want, that they think are necessary and proper. That's the necessary and proper clause. So all those powers technically the president doesn't have, because Congress has those powers. The power of the president is Article 2. The power of Congress is Article 1. So technically speaking, AOC is part of a body of people that is stronger collectively than the executive branch. Technically speaking, constitutionally speaking. On July 25th, Democratic Representative Joseph Morelli proposed a constitutional amendment to reverse the ruling, to reverse Trump v. U.S., to reverse the absolute presidential immunity decision. With the support of more than 40 other members of Congress, law professor, former prosecutor Kimberly Whaley, W-E-H-L-E, wrote an op-ed supporting Morelli's amendment shortly after. Biden had previously announced his plan to introduce a separate amendment known as the No One is Above the Law Amendment, which, where is that amendment? Let's try to get that amendment passed. Nobody is above the law. That's exactly the rule of law. Nobody's allowed to murder or rape. Nobody's allowed to assault or steal. Nobody's allowed to enslave or torture, maim, genocide. Biden had, where's that amendment at? And then Biden has all that power now. So you might say, okay, good. Trump is going to get away with all his shit, but Biden can get away with all his shit now too. So if you were to say that guy, fucking Ryan Roach or whatever, if you said that he was the, Manchurian candidate or some shit, if he was programmed by MK Ultra, if you say that if Joe Biden sent that guy to shoot at Donald, and somehow Biden comes up with the pretense that it was official business as part of his constitutional purview, reclusive and conclusive powers, at the very least it was part of his outer perimeter. If he could just come up with some kind of pretense that it was within his outer perimeter of the constitutional power that he has, then that's okay. He's absolutely immune from it. He won't even get convicted. He won't get charged. He won't get, goddamn, one guy is speeding a little bit. Tyreek Hill is speeding a little bit, and the fucking cop is sitting there fucking acting all gangsta, ready to throw him down on the ground and shit. But they ain't going to do that with Congress or the judicial branch or the president. All of them have absolute authority. So there are people that's above the law. The three branches are above the law. And then what about our freedoms? Our freedoms are a part of the Constitution. So technically, who wins? Does absolute power win or does absolute freedom win? That's tyranny versus freedom. Doesn't liberty conquer freedom? Resistance to tyranny is obedience to God. On August 1st, Schumer introduced the No Kings Act in the Senate, a proposed bill to abolish the presidential immunity and declare that only Congress could grant immunity to federal law. The act would also limit judicial review of its own provisions by providing a statute of limitations, 180 days for facial challenges, 90 days for as-applied challenges, channeling jurisdiction to the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia and D.C. Circuit, with the Supreme Court having no appellate jurisdiction, requiring proof of unconstitutionality by clear and convincing evidence, and forbidding sua sponte relief based on its unconstitutionality. Sua sponte? What the fuck are these stupid ass? I'm tired of these damn Latin fucking phrases. Speaking Latin should be goddamn illegal. Sua sponte is a Latin phrase which means of one's own accord, on one's own behalf. In legal terms, it refers to actions taken by a judge without being prompted by either party in the lawsuit. Sua sponte. Oh, okay, so you're just doing this shit sua sponte. Is that what you're trying to do? You're trying to fucking throw this shit out by sua sponte. No, they gotta ask you to throw it out. Isn't that fair? Sua sponte relief based on the bill was sponsored by more than 24 Democratic senators, but it's unlikely to move forward in the current Congress. Now let's talk about Soto Sotomayor's Sonia Sotomayor's dissent. Today's decision to grant former presidents criminal immunity reshapes the institution of the presidency, and it makes a mockery of the principle foundational to our Constitution and system of government that no man is above the law. Or woman. Kamala is going to become the president, so she's allowed to seal Team 6, her political opponents. She's allowed to take bribes for pardons. Relying on little more than its own misguided wisdom about the need for bold and unhesitating action by the president, the court gives former President Trump all the immunity he asked for and more, because our Constitution does not shield a former president from answering for criminal and treasonous acts. I dissent. If you're being criminal or treasonous and you're the president, hey, guy, I'm the president. I'm allowed to overthrow my own damn government if I feel like. Nah, I'm the president. I'm allowed to commit the crimes. I'm the president. President enjoys immunity from federal criminal prosecution. The majority thinks he should. And so it invents an atextual, ahistorical, and unjustifiable immunity that puts the president above the law. Argument by argument, the majority invents immunity through brute force. Under scrutiny, its arguments crumble. No matter how you look at it, the majority's official acts immunity is utterly indefensible. When presidents use the powers of their office for personal gain or as part of a criminal scheme, every person in the country has an interest in that criminal prosecution. The majority overlooks that paramount interest entirely. Yet the majority believes that a president's anxiety over prosecution overrides the public's interest and accountability and negates the interest of the other branches in carrying out their constitutionally assigned. Fucking Watergate? So Watergate would have been fine. Oh, hey, if the Republicans want to break into the Democrats' office, if the Democrats want to break into the Republicans' office, it's cool. Hey, I'm the president. What do you mean I'm not allowed to push that old man down the flight of steps? I'm the president. If I want to take ice cream and shove ice cream in an old woman's face, she gave me that stank face. No, that's Chaplinsky. That was fighting words. She gave me that stank face. I had this ice cream. I shoved it in her face. Hey, I'm the president. I'm the president. I'm allowed to shove an ice cream in an old woman's face who gives me a damn stank look. Nah, don't give me no stank look. I've been in this life a long time. I don't need your stinking looks. The majority overlooks the paramount interest entirely, yet the majority believes that a president's anxiety over prosecution overrides the public's interest and accountability, negates the interest of the other branches in carrying out their constitutionally assigned functions. Ironic, isn't it, that the man in charge of enforcing the laws can now break the laws? If the former president cannot be held criminally liable for his official acts, those acts should still be admissible to prove knowledge or intent in criminal prosecutions of unofficial acts. So that's another interesting part to this too. They're saying that if somebody else commits a crime, you're not allowed to use what the president did as evidence that that person committed a crime. So in a way, Michael Cohen should be pardoned, right? How did Michael Cohen even get in any trouble? Imagine a president states in an official speech that he intends to stop a political rival from passing legislation that he opposes, no matter what it takes to do so, official act. He then hires a private hitman to murder that political rival, unofficial act. Under the majority's rule, the murder indictment could include no allegation of the president's public admission of premeditated intent to support the mens rea of murder. Mens rea? Come on, everybody. What the fuck? Nobody speaks Latin. You keep telling me Latin's a dead language. Mens rea. What is mens rea? Guilty mind. Refers to the mental state of a defendant accused of a crime. It's the key element in criminal law that helps determine if a defendant is guilty of a crime. So, if you're a psychopath and you just go around hurting people and your mind isn't guilty at all, whoa, that damn fucking grandfather, hey! He said my mother was a son of a bitch, so I shoved him down a flight of steps. Hey! What's the mens rea? So you got the sua sponte, and the mens rea. e pluribus unum, you know? Parabellum, e pluribus unum, parabellum, fucking bellum. Oh, shit. So where were we at? We were the fucking goddamn Mindria. Where's the Mindria at? Support the Mindria of murder. Murder. That is a strange result, to say the least. That is saying the very least, yes. If he hires a private hitman to murder a political rival, so that means, you know, because of fucking national security, it's not personal, it's business. Isn't that Michael Corleone? The long-term consequences of today's decision are stark. The court effectively creates a law-free zone around the president, upsetting the status quo that has existed since the founding. The president of the United States is the most powerful person in the country and possibly the world. When he uses his official powers in any way, under the majority's reasoning, he now will be insulated from criminal prosecution. Butch Ware is one strong guy. So does RFK. To be a strong lefty in America, do you got to be the stronger than any fucking fascist out here? This is Sonia Sotomayor, and this is her best sentence, frankly. So listen. If the president orders the Navy's SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival, immune. If the president organizes a military coup to hold on to power, immune. If the president takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon, immune. Immune, immune, immune. Let the president violate the law. Let him exploit the trappings of his office for personal gain. Let him use his official or her official power for evil ends. Because if she knew that she may one day face liability for breaking the law, then she might not be as bold and fearless as we would like for her to be. That's the majority's message today. Even if these nightmare scenarios, no working class person says scenarios. That is such university elitism. Well, if you think about this scenario, I pray they never do. The damage has been done. The relationship between the president and the people he serves has shifted irrevocably. In every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law, or queen above the law. So if you're the Democrats, well, that's wonderful. You got your Democrat president, Democrat Congress, you got absolute authority. And if you're the Republicans and you got your Republican president, your Republican Congress, that's absolute authority. It's fucking too much. It's just too goddamn much. Never in the history of our republic has a president had reason to believe that she would be immune from criminal prosecutions if she used the trappings of her office to violate the criminal law. Moving forward, however, all former presidents will be cloaked in such immunity if the occupant of that office misuses official power for personal gain. The criminal law that the rest of us must abide by will not provide a backstop. With fear for our democracy, I dissent. So that's the end of Sonia Sotomayor's dissent. How much time do we have? Is this less than 30 minutes? Let's see here. Well, we got one more minute. So do I give my concluding thoughts? No! I'm going to carry on and read one more sentence. It really does appear to immunize a hypothetical president who directed the military to commit murder, though a president might be hard-pressed to find someone to carry out such an order. So now we're dependent on the military being like, no, I don't want to do that. Guess what? The fucking Nazis didn't say no to Hitler. Hey, go exterminate all those people, all them gypsies, all those Roma, all those Eastern Europeans, all the communists and the socialists and the brown and the black folks. Just exterminate them. And of course the Jewish folks. The crux of the issue, legal scholars said, is that the decision granted total immunity for any actions a president takes using the core powers of the Constitution bestowed upon the office. One such power of that authority is to control the military. Absolute authority for the military, the FBI, the ATF, the Air Force, the fucking Army and the Marines, and the Coast Guard. God damn. That's a lot of fucking power. Complete immunity?